What's up, everybody? Welcome back. You are listening to the Money Down Pod. That is my guy, Sean White. Follow him on Twitter at DumpsterFireFan, myself at Kayvon_sports. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. We always appreciate the love. However you're listening, whenever you're listening, it means the world to us. We've seen the ratings, as people would say, go up lately. So thank you so much. And really the perfect time now that we are lapping the summer days and heading to football season right around the corner. Me and Sean's favorite time of the year, when you literally have fantasy, betting, and games every single weekend, night of the week. Everything's going to mix in at the best time. So I'm ecstatic right now, Sean. Things are really getting going in the sports world.
Yeah, usually these are like the dog days, but we've actually had some exciting stuff. Me as a Pirates fan, I've been watching a little O'Neal Cruz out there at
He's a
shortstop.
beast, man.
Yeah, I love O'Neal. We got some opening championship going on. I got 4 out of the top 12 going right now for me to win money, so that's good. Yeah, we just got a lot of stuff going on. I have my fantasy football rankings ready to go for next week. I know we're going to start that next week. I'm super excited to get into that. I know that's a big time thing, but we got to get into some of this NBA free agency, NBA draft, and really wrap up the NBA until something happens with KD or Kyrie. Really, when it comes to topics, right? That's what we're going to do today. We're going to get into that. So I'm going to let Kayvon start off on how he's feeling about this KD. Is he going to get traded? Is he not going to get traded? Let's hear what Kayvon has to think about that, because I think he's got some good points in here.
Yeah, so this is you're spot on. This is when things slow down until something happens. But this is the thing, Sean. If anybody tells me different, then I really just either don't believe them or I'm really just incredibly impressed. But if someone told me a couple weeks ago when KD requested a trade that he wasn't going to get this trade, I'd be shocked. I would literally be shocked, because that's just not how the NBA works. If this was the NFL, I would say, yeah, there's a Kyler Murray, he might want out. It's not going to happen. Maybe it happens, but the likelihood is no, because that's the NFL. That's not how the NBA works. And Sean, we are seeing something happen in real time right now that we have not seen in decades in the NBA. And that is a big time superstar player, a top 5 player in the league right now. I don't care what people think about KD, and everybody knows that's watched this show. I'm not very high on KD, but I still can admit that the man's a top 5 player in the NBA right now. He is requesting a trade, and teams are not biting. Teams are not willing to overpay, quote unquote, for Kevin Durant. When have we ever seen that before, man? Like, I understand Kevin Durant just had a really bad postseason. They got swept. The Warriors then won. Everything that possibly could have went wrong with Kevin Durant this postseason went wrong. But to now look at it and say, Toronto, yeah, look, I like Scotty Barnes. He played really well as a rookie, but Toronto's not willing to give up Scotty Barnes for Kevin Durant. Miami's not willing to overpay some of their draft picks and throw in Tyler Hero and all these guys for Kevin Durant. The Phoenix Suns, listen, I get it. I get it if you don't want to give up Devin Booker. But, Sean, I actually think a year ago, 2 years ago, I would have thought that the Suns would have debated giving up Devin Booker for Kevin Durant. We're talking about Kevin Durant here. And again, I'm not saying the Suns should give up Devin Booker. Booker's younger. He's the kid there. He grew up there. He went through the tough times there. I get it from the Suns' perspective. But they're not willing to make these moves for Kevin Durant. And to me, man, it's a slap in the face to Kevin Durant. It's a slap in the face to Kevin Durant. The league is looking at Kevin Durant and it's saying, hey, we'd love to have your services. We think you're a really good player, but we're just not going to overpay for you. We're not going to give up too much for you. So we're going to sit back, and if we end up losing you and another team ends up going above and beyond, then we lose you. It's all right. Usually teams are saying, we got to get this offer in now, because if we don't, this team's going to come in and get them. And that is not happening right now for Kevin Durant. And it's mind-blowing. It is absolutely mind-blowing. And because of that, I actually think we're getting to a point. Now, I'm not going to say he doesn't get traded yet, because, again, I still cannot wrap my head around an NBA player of his magnitude requesting a trade and not making it happen. It's the NBA. I cannot wrap my head around it. But every day now, it is looking like he actually might not get traded. And I don't care which way you look at it, it is a slap in the face to Kevin Durant.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it for sure, and I can see where you're coming from. It is a slap in the face that not more teams are lining up. The question I would have about the more teams thing is, are they really just trying to work with Kevin that hard to make sure he either goes to Phoenix or Miami? Like, is that his list? Or is it a bunch of other teams that's involved as well that hasn't been reported as much? That's the one thing that's where the rubber's meeting the road here, in my opinion. I think we're very early on in the process. The season hasn't started, anything like that. He's locked up on a 4-year deal, so this isn't a 1 year where you feel like he's just going to sit and can deal with stuff like that. I think what we have here is the Nets view him as a certain value. We saw that Gobert trade really throw the market off. You brought that up. Everyone's roasted that Gobert trade. I mean, good Lord, they gave up, 9 assets for Rudy Gobert, who doesn't play offense. But
absurd.
Anyway, so I think that's throwing everyone off right now. And we'll get into that with the Donovan Mitchell trade because I think that's a little bit of that going on as well. Yeah. So that trade was crazy. Minnesota kind of got fleeced there. So now we have the Nets saying, you're Kevin Durant. We want this amount for you. KD is under contract, but he's also going, hey, these are the 2 teams I would prefer to play for. And it's kind of like a little rock and a hard place situation where really if it's just the 2 teams and the Suns are basically out of it now that Ayton signed. Like, there's no way. And the Nets didn't really care for Ayton to start with from what I can tell because I think if they liked Ayton, that deal would have been done weeks ago when this request first happened. So I think the Nets are really putting a big premium on KD. And I think other teams are just not willing to match it. You mentioned Toronto with Scotty Barnes. I think that's a bargaining chip thing right now. That's betting on a young player that's really in his first year in the league that hasn't been scouted and filmed on very much. So here's how I feel it's going to kind of play out. I think we're going to start the season like this. And I think it's going to be more of a Ben Simmons type trade where Daryl Morey held on to an asset that wouldn't play at all and waited until the perfect trade came around for him to get rid of him. I think that's what we're going to do with the Nets right here. We're going to go into the season. Maybe a team comes out of nowhere and KD's like, yeah, I like that team. I might can go win there. I like the idea of going there, and it's a team we don't know about. Maybe a team feels like they're close, and then they're like, ooh, if we get KD right here, might can win a title this year, and then they give up something. Or maybe the Nets will relax their offer. I think this is going to be a waiting game this year, but I actually think KD starts the season on the Nets as well as Kyrie, because I think until KD gets dealt, Kyrie is going to be there because I think the Nets feel like they actually have a good team as long as those 2 are still on board. So I feel like the Nets are just going to wait around until a trade that they feel is good enough kind of comes out of thin air, the way the Ben Simmons deal worked for the 76ers.
Yeah, I'll get into the Kyrie thing because I have some thoughts on the Kyrie thing. So wait, let me ask you this. Are you saying you think KD's going to sit out?
No. I'm saying if he had 1 year on his deal, he would sit out. But he has 4 years. Like, he's stuck. Like, there's nothing he can do. He's got to be there.
No,
he can demand a trade all he wants to. He's got to be there. Like, that's where he is. So I think he's going to play, and I think the season's going to play out. And then all of a sudden you might see a dark horse team. Like, are the Blazers better than we think? And all of a sudden Shaedon Sharpe looks good, and they're willing to deal Shaedon Sharpe, and the Nets feel like, okay, we might have a future star here. Are we going to see Scotty Barnes take a decline a little bit in the first few games, and Toronto go, oh, maybe we should dump this asset right here and get a Kevin Durant and make a title run? Are we going to see teams like that? Like, are the Mavericks going to feel desperate and maybe try to trade however many draft picks they can to put him with Luka? Like, you can see a team coming out of thin air. Maybe Ingram takes a step back with the Pelicans, and then Ingram goes there. You can see things like that happening where if they just wait around, maybe other teams will come out of the woodwork. But right now, all we hear is Miami and Phoenix, and Phoenix is basically out of it with the whole Ayton thing. And the thing with Miami that I agree with you, Miami kind of feels like they're bidding against themselves, and Pat Riley has got to be one of the smartest, if not the smartest president. He's not going to overpay now. He's the only one in the market for him. So I think the Nets are probably not going to take a deal from him, and he's not going to overpay for it unless all of a sudden something arises and he starts to get bid against. But right now, if I'm Pat Riley, why would I give you Tyler Hero and a bunch of draft picks? We're the only team KD's said he'd go to. And right now, we're the only team that really is bidding right now. So I understand Pat Riley's position completely on that as well.
Yeah, so this is my thing, and I think you might be right about if they start the season. My thing is this. I think if they start the season, I think they end up just playing. I don't know, because I think the Nets should be a decent team. Like, if everyone's healthy, they should be a good team. And if they both, KD and Kyrie, start the season there and play well, maybe they don't want to get traded. It's just like what you're saying, it's still mind-blowing to me, because you're talking about how guys, these teams will look at Scotty Barnes. Maybe he's declining. Okay, now we can trade him. Maybe Ingram's the fact that they want to wait to see these guys decline instead of just say, it's Kevin Durant, let's just trade for him. Like, let's give up Brandon Ingram and some picks and pair Zion and KD together. And the other thing is that, and this is the biggest part that you mentioned, he has 4 years left. That makes him more appealing. I would totally get it if KD has 1 year left and teams are like, man, I know it's KD, but I'm not trying to give up this much for 1 year and then worry about if he resigns or not. You have him on the hook for 4 more years. And I think that it's a mix of, listen, Brooklyn obviously has a lot to do with this, because they're not going to trade him for nothing, for pennies on the dollar. But what we have to understand is, when have we ever seen a superstar get traded for more than 80 cents on the dollar? Like, you're trading a superstar. You're not going to get anything back in return that is Kevin Durant's caliber. You're not getting an Anthony Edwards back. Like, you're not, that's not happening. No one's going to trade Anthony Edwards for KD right now, because Anthony Edwards is younger. He's more promising at his age right now. You're not going to do that. So you're always going to get 80 cents or less on the dollar. And the Nets just haven't come to grip with that. And I think the teams are sitting there saying, I think Miami and Phoenix are honestly looking at their rosters and saying, we both were just the number 1 team in the West and East last year. We would love to have Kevin Durant, but to be honest, I really don't care that much for him unless we're able to get him at our price. And because they're willing to say that, I think it's just a referendum on KD and where he's at right now. I want to move to Kyrie here, because I think something fascinating is happening with Kyrie. And I actually believe that this is happening. Kyrie is giving out signals that he never requested a trade and that he wants to be in Brooklyn and all that stuff. And that's being reported from people that know Kyrie and that are inside Kyrie's camp. And he's posting pictures of fans with Brooklyn Nets jerseys on and stuff like that. I fully believe this, Sean. I want to get your thoughts on it. I think Kyrie thought that he would let the world know that he wants to go to LA and play with LeBron. And I think Kyrie thought that it's LeBron James, he would make that deal happen in a heartbeat. And I think LeBron tried to make that deal happen. And I think the Lakers are being stubborn and stupid at the same time, because they're not willing to part with that 2027 or 2029 first round pick, and the deal's not happening. And I think Kyrie is shocked that LeBron was not able to get this deal happen, and he's now having a come to Jesus moment and realizing, I don't think this deal is going to happen, so why not put myself back there into the good side of the fans where I'm from, near Brooklyn, and say, I never requested a trade. I want to be in Brooklyn. I think Kyrie literally thought by now he would have been on the Lakers. Everything would have been done. And I think he is realizing, holy shit, if LeBron can't get this done, which is shocking and, again, stupid on the Lakers' part, I got to get back with Brooklyn here. Whether KD comes back or not, I got to be good with it. And I think he's starting to realize that. I truly believe that's what went down and what is going down with Kyrie.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think Kyrie knows that this Lakers trade is a long shot at this point. Really, the Lakers are going to have to give up even more of their future. Basically, you're going to punt on all of the end of the 2020s, basically, to do this. So if that's the case, you're basically going in for like a 1 or 2 year title window where LeBron isn't going to re-up in August, because I do think me and you were kind of talking back and forth. I do think LeBron really wants to play with Bronny. So I don't think he's going to lock himself in anywhere that he's not going to be able to go and play with Bronny at some point. I think no matter what anyone says, rings, business, everything, I think the number one thought in LeBron's head right now is playing with his son that 1 year. And if that's how he feels, it's how he feels. He's accomplished so much in his career that if that's what he wants to do, that's what he's going to do. But I don't think the Lakers are going to sit there and be like, okay, we're just going to give up the last few years for this one shot at a title run, which is a tough sell. So I think they're also at a rock and a hard place, as well as just how the Nets and KD are, where you're not going to have the commitment from LeBron. But if you blow up that back end, you're going to get a lot of Lakers fans. And I'm really good friends with a Lakers fan that was not a LeBron fan. Like he's a Lakers fan.
Mm-hmm.
Like no matter who the team is, back when they were terrible those 5-6 years and just drafting people, diehard Lakers fan. He honestly hates this whole LeBron thing because he thinks he's blowing up the team for the rest of like a 10-year span. But where Kayvon's coming from is a big LeBron guy. The Lakers are ruining LeBron's last few years. So yeah, the fan base is honestly at odds a little bit because you have that too. So that's actually a fun debate to have. What the point I'm trying to get at with Kyrie is Kyrie's realized this isn't happening unless it's a long shot. It's probably a 5-10% chance maybe. But really, you're gonna have to find another person for Russell Westbrook, and you're gonna have to trade those 2 draft picks, or 1 or 2 at least. Because one's got to go to whoever Russ goes to, because it's not going to be Brooklyn, and one's got to go to Brooklyn. So that's kind of where we're at on that. And Kyrie now sees, man, I've kind of been a nuisance here at Boston. I've been kind of a nuisance here in Brooklyn, and nobody really wants to trade for me. So what's he going to do? He's got to get the fans back on his side in Brooklyn, and he's going to have to come out and play. He's going to have to play really well. That's what he's going to have to do, because performance will overshadow a bunch of that personal stuff, and talent always outshines the character issues or anything like that. It's not really character issues; he just doesn't play enough. But anyway, he's going to come out. I think he's going to be on his best behavior no matter who he plays for, because he knows he's perceived a certain way by the fans and the league. So he's going to be on his best behavior this year. I think you're spot on that point.
So this is the one thing I would say to Lakers fans here, because I want to chime on this. Okay. I am going to die on this point. It is irrational and stupid what the Lakers are doing. To think about a pick that is 5 years down the road from now. Sean, do you know how easy it will be for them to get a first-round pick back in 2027? By the time 2027, they can trade Anthony Davis in 3 years. Anthony Davis could come out and have 2 of the greatest years of his life. LeBron leaves to go play with his son. They trade Anthony Davis for a boatload of picks, and they're back to their normal self of rebuilding. Like, to think that they won't have ways to get those picks back in the future is asinine and stupid for Lakers fans to sit here and say, I have LeBron James and I have Anthony Davis, and we are just going to waste these 2 players, because even if they both are healthy all season, they're not winning the West with just them 2. It's not happening. They don't have the team that they had when they won the championship. If they still had Caruso and all of and Kuzma and KCP, guys that can lock down and hit shots, then yeah, like, don't trade those picks. But they don't have those guys anymore. They need players. And I'm telling you, it is going to be such a bad look for the Lakers. And I understand this is an if. But if LeBron and AD come out and play very well, man, and are healthy, and they come up short strictly because they didn't have enough help and it wasn't injury-wise, that is a slap in the face to the Lakers organization. And it's just organizational malpractice, to be honest with you. It really is. You're thinking about a 2027 pick. It's not like it's a 2024 or even a 2025. You're talking about a 2027 pick where you're going to have so many ways to get that pick back. You're going to have so many different ways to get it back. I cannot wrap my head around it, and it's honestly going to make me not even want to watch the Lakers this year if everything stays and they go into the basketball season like this. And I'm still believing, and I know I agree with you, it's a long shot at this point. I think you're right, but I'm still believing, call me naive, call me delusional, that Kyrie gets on the Lakers somehow. Even though I just went on this whole spiel that he now realizes, I still in the back of my head am believing that it happens somehow, because I just can't wrap my head around KD being able to stay, because he's a superstar asking for a trade. And if KD leaves, I think Kyrie leaves. And I honestly think we're going to see a new twist in the wrinkle here in maybe by the end of the day. And that's Russell Westbrook demanding a trade. I think we're hearing rumblings now that his agent and him split away because his agent wants him to stay in LA and Westbrook wants to leave. That's what they split for differences of opinion. And if that's true, then why would he not come out fully here shortly and say, I want out? And if he wants out, that's the best damn thing anything could happen to Lakers fans. I mean, that is great news because I don't care if you get nothing for him. You get him out and you see what you can do from there. But I just can't wrap my head around the idea of them worrying about a 2027 pick so much. That's my only thing. I don't know if you want to respond to that and we go to Donovan Mitchell or.
Yeah, let me just give a slight rebuttal to that.
Okay.
I think that's just a when you get behind a team like that, what you're saying makes sense with the Anthony Davis thing, but you're banking a lot on Anthony Davis being Anthony Davis, like for the next 2 years to be able to pull back a haul, to be able to build a team. Because if you think about it, even if they had Kyrie, if LeBron leaves, Kyrie's trade value is already bad now. It's not going to get better the older he gets. And then you're banking a lot on Anthony Davis, 2 years more of age, not getting hurt for those 2 years, and trading him away for enough picks to build a team because the team is terrible without those.
No, I get it.
I mean, it's awful. It's worse than it was before they traded for AD when they had Ingram and all of them, and at least they can think on young players. They don't even have young players at that point. All they would have is the mystique of having a Laker on your jersey for a few of the free agents, which would work for some, but we see the Knicks haven't been able to pull one for however long. The thing that the Lakers have is weather, obviously. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't sit here and say that the Lakers are just like one of the better run franchises either out there with their ownership and all that. To be honest, moving forward, and Lakers fans are going to hate this, the Clippers are actually in the better situation when it comes to that because they're going to have their own stadium and Ballmer's going to pay whatever amount of money. There's one owner in the NBA that will pay everyone no matter what, and it's him. So that's the one thing you got to worry about as a Lakers fan. So I do see a little bit of where they're coming from, but I also see your point where if AD comes out and plays like a top player, we see what these stars are going for. You can get some of those picks back in the future. And I understand where you're coming from. Obviously, as a big LeBron fan, you don't want to see these last 2-3 years of him just wasted away into him playing very well for a team that can't compete at a high level. So I understand where you're coming from on that. It's good points on both ends.
No doubt. And then even if we tie in your point, which I think is very valid, that all LeBron's mind is playing with his son. So say that's true. So say they get Kyrie Irving this year and AD's healthy, Kyrie, LeBron, and they go to the finals. They don't even win. They go to the final or they win it all. Okay, if LeBron in a year after that wants to go play with his son, AD just literally finished his whole season. They won the chip or they went to the finals, Western Finals, trade him. Trade him. You know LeBron's leaving the next year. Then you get those picks back. Like, it could be a 1-year thing. I just think that they are focusing way too far down the line when all you need is one good year from Anthony Davis. He's 26 years old. And then, boom, you're done. You get all your assets back if you want. I just think they're looking at it long. But let's look at this. Speaking of the Knicks, I'm so glad you brought that up. Donovan Mitchell, now Danny Ainge, who is just like, let me tell you one thing about Danny Ainge. He has some of his flaws there, but if I'm a team that is in the sweepstakes of Donovan Mitchell, I'm worried. I'm worried what this guy might do to me when it comes to what he's going to get out of the team. But this is my thing here, Sean. The New York Knicks, as you just said perfectly, have not been able to get a star, have not been able to get anything through trades, free agency for years now. And all we've heard for the last 2 years is how Donovan Mitchell loves New York, how the Knicks are going to save up to go after Donovan Mitchell, how they're waiting to go after Donovan Mitchell. And now when it comes to the point where they can actually maybe go after him, it sounds like they're not even interested and they don't want to trade up assets. To me, that is so Knicks. Like, so Knicks. He's not joined. No one is joining you guys in free agency. If you want the star, you have to give up assets to get them. I understand you don't want to give up your whole team. You shouldn't have to do that. But to give up some assets to get him is so ridiculous that you're not I'm not saying I would do it, but I'm just saying from the Knicks' point of view, because all we've heard is that they want him, and now that it's time to get him, they don't want him anymore. And I would not be shocked if Donovan Mitchell ends up in Miami or somewhere else and not in New York because New York then got cold feet.
Yeah. So to finish your thing off, the professional pick swap genius over there, Danny Ainge, he's not going to give him up for just peanuts on the dollar. So that's one reason why I talked about Pat Riley with the whole Kevin Durant thing.
Yeah.
I don't think Donovan ends up in Miami.
I think
Ainge loves to win a trade so much that like he will just not allow it to go to Pat Riley, who I don't think Pat Riley ever gets fleeced either.
Yeah.
So I think they are both too good with that for Donovan to end up in Miami. I just don't see that happen. I really don't. I think they would want to go up against each other, and I think they play it like a basketball game. They would want to win that trade so bad that I just don't think it happens.
That's so
the second thing is, I think what's going to happen is I think Ainge might relax on a few of these players. Like he's asking for like 3 or 4 young players to try to match salary, and then a lot of picks. I think he wants the picks and the pick swaps. I think he's going to relax on a young player and maybe take Randall back for the contract, just try to get off of it to match the salary. And I think that would still be a smart trade on Ainge's end. I think Ainge is trying to fleece him as much as he can right now. And he's going to let it melt down a little bit. Because you're right. The Knicks have been looking for stars, and Jalen Brunson's not a star. The Knicks love having a star player, and they can never get one. They traded a lot for Carmelo, so maybe they're a little bit frazzled from that. They don't want to do that. But if you're telling me you can keep RJ Barrett and you have Brunson to go along with Donovan, that 1 through 3 right there, that's actually a fun team. That's a good team. That's a playoff team in the East. And this is one thing that I don't understand about some NBA teams, and I feel this way as a Kings fan. In the NFL, if you're not going to be like a Super Bowl contending team, it's not really fun to just be a consistent first-round loss playoff team. Yeah. Because in the NFL, you can build a team good enough to make a Super Bowl no matter where you're at. You just have to get a good enough quarterback and be a smart enough drafter, because that's what matters. In baseball, basically every team is out of it that can't pay a payroll. That's how that goes. So as a Pirates fan, what I look for is you have a flashy player and he's there until he has to get paid. That's what I said about O'Neal Cruz earlier. I get to watch O'Neal Cruz as a Pirates fan, being a Pirates uniform for 3-4 years. Then he's going to go to get paid and somebody else is going to pay him. That's just the fact of the sport. In the NBA, we all know before the season starts, it's about 4 to 6 teams that can win it, and it's because they have superstar level players.
Yes.
And then you have a team every now and then that's just a great collection that usually comes up short. If you're in the NBA, you either need to be that great collection or you need to be horribly bad, and the Knicks are nowhere near either of them. So go ahead and get Donovan Mitchell in and be a perennial 3 to 6 seed and be in the playoffs and give yourself a shot. You haven't done that in I don't know how long, since what Melo was there and he was still being a 7 and 8 seed.
Yeah.
Make the playoffs. The Kings make the playoffs. These teams like that. You've been in the dump for how long now? Go ahead and make the trade. Try not to get fleeced with the picks and pick swaps, but Ainge is going to ask for that a lot. But do what you can and just have a fun young group with those 3 and Mitchell Robinson in the center. Just have a fun group. Go make the playoffs. Be good in New York for once, please. Just be a good basketball team in New York one time. Fun to watch.
Yeah, no, you laid it out perfectly, and it's so true in all those sports how that works. It's just like, listen, we're not standing up here saying that with Donovan Mitchell, the Knicks are going to contend to go to the finals or anything, but they'll be a dangerous team. They'll be a fun team. They won't be good enough to make the finals because defensively, Brunson and Mitchell as a backcourt isn't the best defensively, but they'll score, man. They'll be fun. They will be much better than we've seen anything since Melo's there. And they did all this stuff on draft night to get all these picks. They've been getting all these picks the last couple of years. For what? This is the moment. When is another star going to come available? You're not getting KD. He's not going there. The Nets will never trade him to another New York team. Who's coming open? Who's coming open other than this? Like, this is your one time to get him. And if they stand flat-footed, something's going to end up happening. I just don't understand the Knicks at all, man. Like, I get it if Ainge is asking for RJ Barrett and Obi Toppin and all these guys. Ainge just wants picks, man. He's going to want a couple of players back. I think you're right on the Randall thing. And I would even consider doing Obi Toppin as well. I would consider it. I would consider doing Randall and Toppin to get Mitchell back because Mitchell can play. He's a star. He's a really good player. And in New York, he can be a superstar. And then you can build around that. Maybe more people will want to come to New York once you get a guy like Donovan Mitchell. That's how this whole thing works. You have to get the guy first, and then other things will follow. If you get Donovan Mitchell, if you get Jalen Brunson, 2 guys that people like in the NBA, you never know. Shooters might start to come. Wing defenders might start to come. That's how it works. But until you get one of those guys, you're just going to be in exactly what Sean said, in purgatory from here on out. That's why I can't wrap my head around it, man. I really don't get it with the Knicks. I think you're right. Maybe that Danny Ainge will eventually come off of it and things will go. And maybe eventually Donovan Mitchell says, I'm only going to New York, and that helps New York out too. But right now he hasn't said that, and we'll see. But the Knicks got to get this done to me. If they don't, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think the deal that was reported that the Knicks declined was Grimes, Toppin, quickly 4 firsts and 3 swaps. I think that was what it was, which is high.
That's high.
That's what I was saying. I think if you flip it, say you want to keep Toppin or quickly or one of them, keep one of them, throw Randall in.
Yeah,
just throw Randall's salary in there. Say, no, we're giving up essentially 7 firsts to you. We're not giving you everybody else too. So yeah, just go back at Ainge a little bit, because that's what Ainge cares about. Ainge cares about those 4 firsts and those 3 pick swaps.
Yes.
That's what he cares about.
Yes.
He's trying to fleece you with those 3 young players. Keep 1 or 2 of the young players and throw Randall in it if that's what you want to do. But if you didn't accept that deal, then I don't know what's going to happen. Again, I do think this is one thing to think about. Let me see how you feel about it. I think the Knicks are a little bit haunted by that Zion draft, where they thought they were going to get the 1 and get Zion. And I think they're still holding out hope that Zion and RJ are good friends, and that Zion will ask out after this year. And maybe they want to use that ammo for Zion instead of Donovan, which to me, that's a long shot doing it. Zion's in a good situation, and he hasn't played very much.
Yeah.
But at least you get a proven commodity in Donovan Mitchell if you do it this way. But holding out hope for Zion, because you see a few Knicks people that still got those hard eyes for Zion out there that thought he was going to be in a Knicks uniform. I would come off that a little bit, because I mean, we roasted KD for leaving Golden State after we roasted him for going there. Could you imagine, with the young group the Pelicans have, if Zion asked out after this year? They'd be like, that'd be an all-time stupid move on his end as he's getting paid. So yeah, I think the Knicks need to give up on that and just go in and get what star wants to be there, which is Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, Zion would look terrible, man, because he just signed. The Pelicans just gave him a deal that he didn't deserve. Zion doesn't deserve any money right now. The guy literally hasn't done anything yet. So for him to just get this deal, play 1 year, and then see, that right there is something the Knicks would think about. That's why I'm glad you brought it up. And that right there is how you keep yourself in purgatory, by thinking of these type of fantasies when you actually have a real fantasy that is life right now that could come to happen. I'm not saying get shredded by Danny Ainge. I'm not saying that. Sean's clearly just laid it out perfectly of how you don't get shredded. So we're both not saying give up whatever and get shredded. We're just saying get it done. Fight back on Ainge a little bit. Keep some of your young guys. Give them the picks. Give them Randall. Utah then can be a little bit exciting with Randall, but still suck. And then make the trade. I would not count on Zion at all. Zion might eventually ask out, but I don't see him asking out after. I think he at least plays 2 years in New Orleans and then maybe ask out. But you never know. That team could be contending for some serious stuff in the West if everything goes right and everybody gets better and better there. So we'll see. Let's transition to the draft here, Sean. I want to talk about what's going on in the draft, because what happened in the draft, and just kind of recap it, because one of the things that I think is really exciting for you is Keegan Murray. Bro, I know it's Summer League. I know it's Summer League. But the skill set that Keegan Murray is possessing in Summer League is a skill set that is translating straight to the NBA level. His range on shooting is phenomenal. He can handle the ball well. He's actually pretty good. He's better passing the ball than I realized when I was watching him. I did not think he was a good passer. I loved him as a shooter, and I thought he was going to be more of a spot-up shooter. That's why I was a little bit worried of what. But I told you I liked him, but I was worried because I thought he was going to be more of a spot-up shooter. Dude, he is really impressing me, and I think the Kings might have found their guy, man. I really think the Kings might make the playoffs this year if Keegan Murray keeps progressing the way he is. Right now, Keegan Murray is the star of Summer League. He is Chet Holmgren has had a couple games. No, Keegan Murray is the star of Summer League right now.
Yeah, Keegan Murray's playing well, and I wasn't happy when the pick happened. Let's be honest. I thought we should
wanted Ivy, and
I thought we should have taken Ivy because of the asset. Even then, you take that asset usually, And I'm gonna be honest with you, I slept on Keegan Murray a little bit in the draft process too. I thought he was just going to be like a slightly plus offensive player to Mikal Bridges and be worse defensively. I was wrong. He's way better offensively. Like when it
Yes.
comes to having moves, a move set, and everything, and knowing where you want to go with the ball. That was crazy for me to see. He has a lot more size than I realized too. I watched him play against Chet. Standing beside Chet, he doesn't look small. He's
No.
definitely got some size to him, and he gives you that. He gives you that. I'm going to say this very poor because you don't want to over project. He gives you a very poor man Klay Thompson vibe. That's kind of the vibe you get from him,
Agreed.
where he can stand in the corner and hit every three you give him that's open. But he also has this small little move set, this 1-2 dribble move set, pull up, and he's hitting the shot. He's a good shooter. I do like what I'm seeing for him. Again, it's summer league, so I don't try to overweight people in summer league. But I was very unhappy when the pick was made. I would say that I'm a lot more optimistic now. What I'm really just hoping is that Mike Brown actually decides to play him at the 2 beside Barnes and doesn't put him on the bench to start with, because that always annoys me, especially when you have a top 5
That
pick.
would be so
I
stupid.
think they should just bring Herter and Davion off the bench. And that's a really good bench mob crew, to be honest. So, yeah, you start Murray next to Barnes. You have 2 long, lengthy defenders at the 2 and the 3. And then you have the more deficient defenders in Sabonis and Fox, that you have the 2 lengthy guys on the edge that can kind of one-on-one guard better. So that's the kind of lineup I'd like to see. But, again, these NBA coaches like to put their stars on the bench for a few times. So that's kind of worrying me. I'm worried they think he's going to have to be a 3 and need to come off the bench for Barnes, which I don't really love. But we'll see what they do with it. But I'm glad you appreciated the Keegan Murray play, because he has been really good in summer league. I've watched all his games. I've been very excited about him.
He's been awesome. And the one thing that would worry me is Mike Brown. I think Mike Brown is not a good head coach. I think it's ridiculous that he got another job. He's a great assistant, but he should not be getting another job. That would worry me. It'd be criminal if he brings Murray off the bench. Murray needs minutes. You got to let him get his minutes. You got to let him start. And I like the Kings lineup. I don't know how the coaching is going to do, but I like the Kings lineup a lot. The Kings are, as me and you like to talk all the time, they're going to be an NBA League Pass team this year. There is no doubt about that. Let's move on to a player that you loved, and I was right there with you, but you highlighted him as your favorite player, one of your favorite players in this draft, and that's Ben Mathurin. Ben Mathurin right now, I'm telling you guys, if you're betting people, bet on him. If you like to bet futures, bet on him to win Rookie of the Year. Most likely, Paolo Banchero will win Rookie of the Year. But if it's someone with better odds, and that's what I look at when betting, Ben Mathurin has all the qualities to win Rookie of the Year. The reason why is he's going to have the ball in his hands all the time. He's going to be on a bad team, which means he's going to be able to put up great numbers on a bad team. I love what I'm seeing out of Ben Mathurin. And I compared him. I said he's a little bit like Damian Lillard, and he is showing that in Summer League. He's got range. He's got handles. He's got passing ability. I like Ben Mathurin. Again, this is all Summer League, guys. You got to take it with a grain of salt. But just from what we're seeing so far, I really like Ben Mathurin.
Yeah, I like Mathurin a lot too. He was one of my favorite players going into the draft. I liked his one-on-one game. I liked how he fit in as a team. And I think the Pacers, I mean, we got to talk some Pacers here, because we always get a lot of fan feedback from the Pacer fans out there. Kayvon goes at them on Twitter a little bit, some back and forth. We always get a lot of eyes on our Indianapolis Colts videos. So something about Indiana, man, we love y'all out there. But I'm a big Ben Mathurin guy. I like that. And I'm a big Tyrese Halliburton guy. I was so sad to see the Kings trade him away. So I actually kind of like the young core the Pacers have going there with Halliburton, Mathurin, and Duarte. They all have a good shooting 3 right there, and they all pass very well. So if the Pacers can really get some type of primetime 4 or center, they're kind of good. They're going to be in some good shape here soon. But for right now, watch that 3 young core. And I love what you're saying. Mathurin's one of my favorites for Rookie of the Year as well in the futures bets. Yeah. Keegan Murray, if you got him early, was actually very good too.
He was.
But right now, he's actually getting bet up so hard because of it that his odds are changing. But
don't take it
now. He was actually a very good bet about a week and a half ago because his odds were great. So, yeah, I think if you look at Mathurin, Keegan Murray, and Banchero, I think you could take those 3 and then take the field as a whole other thing. I think the 3 that I mentioned, it's going to be Rookie of the Year from one of those 3 is how I'm feeling.
Agreed. Completely agreed. Now, we obviously got to hit on the main guys that people want to talk about. Chet has done really what I figured. He's looked really good at times, and he's also looked at times like, my goodness, he's got to get his weight up or he's not going to survive in this league. What I am most impressed about is his shot. He is showing on a night-and-night basis that he can shoot the three really well. We already all knew that, but Chet is exactly what I thought, man. I mean, he's just, again, it's summer league, but there's times where I'm saying, my God, how is he letting this guy back him up and dominate him like this? Who is this guy? And then there's times where he's putting the ball on the ground, he's stepping back and shooting three, and he looks like a super skilled big man. So Chet is where I'm at with Chet. There's nothing that's changed on me from what I've seen. What about you?
Yeah, you're going to have to put him as a help defender the whole time. Don't have him. If you have like a Anthony Davis, a Jokic, or something like that, don't put Chet on them specifically. Let him guard the lesser, more defensive player out there. Whoever the worst offensive big guy that the other team has, he needs to be on him in the corner so he can help off and block shots. Because if not, he's going to get bodied down there. That's just what it is. He's got to get his weight up for that. So defensively, he's going to be a liability. What I've seen on offense, though, is it's actually been a plus from his Gonzaga days, to be honest. I think he was more aggressive out there. He played a lot better. His shot was consistent. And I think you saw it in those first few games that Giddey played with him. Him and Giddey are a good little duo. And Giddey set him up. Yeah, Josh Giddey's one of my favorite players to watch as well.
I love him.
He set him up really well. And I think you're going to see a very good offensive team in OKC now, because I think when you get Giddey going on the transition breaks and you see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander be the one-on-one last-second shot guy, I think both of them, since they're on the floor all the time, both were point guards. I think you're going to see them set up Chet a lot on offense. So he's going to look very good offensively, even though he's not like the primetime ball handler, main guy down the floor every time. So I think that's going to be a fun league pass team to watch as well, just because they are so young, but they're also just going to play a pace and a style of basketball that's fun to watch to the eye, even though they're not going to win a lot of games, because defensively they're not going to be able to hold up, in my opinion.
Agreed, 1,000%. And then I just want to end it on this. If there's anyone else you want to talk about, you can definitely bring it up. I'm disappointed in the Magic, man. Like, what are we getting to in the NBA now? And this is a pod that we need to do one day of what's going on with the NBA. Like, we're now resting people in summer league. Like, you really had to sit Banchero out to get other people minutes. This is the summer league. The whole point is to watch these young guys play, watch and see what they do. Like, if he got hurt, okay, that's one thing. But to let the other players get minutes, what are you doing? I respect the shit out of Oklahoma City. They're putting a guy out there in Josh Giddey who is so good, he has no business being in summer league. And you know what? They're putting him out there because they want him and Chet to get some chemistry going together, just like you talked about. I respect that. That is awesome to me. Now, Orlando's over here. Paolo came out. He looked great the first couple games. He looked like he should have been the number one pick. He looked how we talked about him being, and then they shut him down. Like, come on, Orlando, be better than that. Like that. If we're getting to this point now where we're going to do that in summer league too, the NBA's got an issue, man. It's got an issue. And again, that's a conversation we got to get into a whole nother day, because that's a long pod. But I just want to talk about that. That kind of bothered me, man. I wanted to watch Paolo. I wanted to watch the number one overall player. We got to see him for a couple games, and he looked great. I'm disappointed we didn't get to see him for more.
Yeah, I liked what I saw out of the 2 games he played, and you're right, man. Like, what are we doing here? He was good enough. We don't need to see any more. And yes, he was really good, but I mean, good enough to where we don't need to see any more. I mean, good God, what are we doing now? It's a fun time too. Summer league, you get the chemistry going out there. Let him go out there and show he's an alpha and be a number one and carry a team to win games. That's not going to be his team. That's what I like to see out of it. But from what I saw of Paolo, he definitely deserved to be the number one pick. We talked about that. It was a smart pick by the Magic too. I think him and Franz is going to go well together. Yeah. I think they're going to be a fun duo down there. And you got Suggs that's kind of up and coming. They have the length to play defense behind them. So that's going to be a fun team to watch on League Pass as well. I like where they're going. I do hate where we're going to, where the stars rest all the time. And then even in the summer league, if you do too good, you just get pulled out for 2 games. Like, come on now. We don't need all that happening. One person I'd like to touch on that I think both of us hit it spot on. I love Jabari a lot, but what we're seeing with Jabari is the Rockets are going to have to find a point guard.
Yes.
I think that's one of the big things that came out of Summer League. They're going to need a point guard, because this is going to be Porter. And I mean, Jalen Green's not going to set you up. that team, when you're going to watch them, you're going to see a lot of talent one-on-one, but Jabari's not really going to shine this year, I don't think,
I don't
because he
either.
needs to be put into good spots. He needed that Josh Giddey type player that Chet has,
Yeah.
or Shea Gilgeous where Chet has, where he can get set up and shoot. Honestly, Keegan Murray's looked a lot better offensively getting his own shot, which kind of surprised me. But
Yeah.
Jabari's going to need that Chris Paul, that point guard that sets him up into the spots he needs to be to knock down shots. Because I think this first year, it's going to be a lot of him standing in the corner while the two guards just go one-on-one and take it in. So that's what you're going to see with the Rockets a lot. I think you're going to see a lot of ISO ball, and Jabari is going to really have an issue getting his own shot off because he's not going to be set up in a good position, which ironically is what happened at Auburn and kind of knocked him down a little bit in the draft.
Yeah, listen, I love Jabari. I think his skill set's phenomenal for this NBA, but you hit it on the nail, man. Listen, that Rockets team, and I love Jalen Green. I talked about Jalen Green last year. I said, like, he is good. Like, I said that he would needed to be in consideration for that number one pick. I said, obviously, Detroit's not going to take him, but I was like, you got to at least just look at him and see where you're at with him. I love Jalen Green, but that dude will hog that ball up, bro, and he will take it to the basket. And I'm telling you, he's going to average 24, 25 points a game. Like, I think Jalen Green's going to go off, and Jabari's going to kind of get hidden because of that. You're spot on. He needs a Shea. He needs a Giddey. He needs someone to get him the ball. That's the next thing the Rockets have to find. You are spot on about that. They have some fun pieces. I like some of the pieces on the Rockets, but they need someone to get him the ball. So out of the top three, if I had to pick one that looks like he's disappointing, quote unquote, even though it's his first year, it would be Jabari for that one reason, just because I think he's going to get, like you said it perfect, he's going to get lost in those two guys. But we'll still hype him up on the show because I'm still really like him. I love his skill set. It's perfect for today's NBA. But you're right. He's got to get someone to feed him the ball. We'll see how it happens. Right now, though, Keegan Murray is the star of the Summer League. He looks great. And for the first time, maybe ever in a long time, Sacramento can actually say, we drafted the right guy. Like, they drafted the right guy. Now, listen, Jaden Ivey, we haven't seen much of him. He might be top notch. He might be really good. But because they had De'Aaron Fox, and if Murray keeps going down this road, I think Kings fans, yourself included, are going to be like, I like it. So right now, I needed to start with him because I think he's the star of the Summer League. Overall, though, Summer League's great, man. It's been fun.
Yeah, it has, and I appreciate the shout out there a little bit.
Yeah.
I've been feeling it too. Like I said, Summer League, don't want to get too overhyped, but I really do like where the team's going on that. We're going to be back next week. A lot of fantasy football time's coming. We reactivated our keeper league, so we got to figure out who we're keeping on our teams in our keeper league. We also do two other ones. We know the stuff with PPR and everything, especially daily. I play a lot of daily fantasy, so the PPR type system is all in there. So we're going to have you covered on all things keepers, dynasty. We're going to have standard PPR scoring. We're going to have the breakdowns for you, so I can't wait for y'all to tune in. We're gonna put a lot of work into this. I think you're really going to like our fantasy football takes, because we've been playing for years. I mean, years and years, 3-4 teams a year. So I think you're really going to enjoy that. Just got to hope our league doesn't watch too much of us to try to take all our players we like.
Yeah, right. That's exactly what I was thinking too. Listen, we're going to be talking starting next week, fantasy all the way until February. Like that every single week, it's going to be fantasy and it's going to be betting to go along with all the games. I mean, we are really going to focus on this show a lot about fantasy and gambling, because that stuff is taking over the world and we love it just as much as everyone else does. So we're really going to hone in on that when it comes to NFL, and then obviously college football too for betting. So really look forward to that. But next week, this coming week, we are diving into our first fantasy show, and then we're going to let it roll from there. So if any of you out there have any fantasy questions, comments, whatever you want to talk about, comment on the YouTube show. Hit us up on Twitter at MoneyDownPod, at DumpsterFireFan, at Kayvon_sports. All you got to do, just hit us up, get in our DMs, whatever, and we promise you we will answer that show. And if the ratings keep going up, then we will do a show mock draft as we get closer to the fantasy football season. So that's up to you guys. If you guys keep watching us as much as you have, we really appreciate it. We'll figure that out when that comes. So thank you so much for tuning in. That is my guy, Sean White. I am Kayvon Izami. We'll talk to you next week.